Hey9 Media, welcome to the second lesson for this week. Today we're going to create an Indigenous boomerang design. So again, make sure you get stuck into it. It does count towards your marks for the final assessment piece. We'll collate a bit of a portfolio and let's get stuck into it. Here in the OneNote, you will find a section called Indigenous Boomerang. There is a Word document there. I will email it through as well and I'll show you how to get to that. So in the OneNote, just under here, Unit 3 Design, Indigenous Boomerang is where you'll find this Word document. When you open it up, it'll look something like this. So these are the kind of designs we're going to go for to create. But the first step is we need to take this boomerang and place it into Photoshop. From here, we're going to want to copy that boomerang image into our Photoshop document. So I'm going to click on that, hit Control-C, go into Photoshop, and go create new. Now the new one we probably want to create is the default Photoshop size, so just make sure you've got those same settings here. And I'm just going to give it a title of Indigenous Boomerang. So we've got our settings here. Make sure it's RGB color too. I know so a few people were going to grayscale. That'd be why. Sorry. It's just the color mode. So make sure you've got that set to RGB color. Then create that. Paste our boomerang in. And then we're going to want to do a bit of resizing. So I'm going to use Control-T for my one. You'll notice the boomerang's on a new layer. Control-T to resize the boomerang here. And you can just flip those sides. Photo P to be Control-Alt-T. So just keep that in mind. So kind of line it up as best I can. 45 angle, I guess. I'm going to put it bigger still. Alrighty, so remember we're going to trace this, so I can even make it bigger than that if I want. I might make it the whole size of the page. You could crop the photo. Another way to do it too. So I've got my image there, and then I'm going to use the brush tool. So I'm going to hit Create B, put on that brush tool, and I'm going to paint black around the outside of this boomerang. So you can see I've put my opacity and flow to 100%, just so I've got a nice clear line. I can probably mess around with the brush tool as well. I probably want a hard brush. Round brush here. That's going to give me a nice clear outline. So I'll trace around my boomerang and I'll be back shortly. Do remember when you're painting, you want this one to be in a new layer. So each part's on a new layer. With the stencil, I make this blank layer in which we're going to use the paintbrush tool. Just made a mistake myself. It saves you a bit of time if you get it right the first time. So make sure that is on a new layer. Here we have my boomerang. I'm not using a mouse, so it's a bit tricky to draw around it. And I could probably take my time and be a bit neater with it. You guys should be doing that. We have the basic boomerang here. And you'll notice it's on that new layer. So I can get rid of the paint, I can get rid of the stencil, and just have my boomerang there. Also really important we put these lines here in. They're gonna be important for the next step. So the next step is we're gonna use the paint bucket tool. If we look at our Word document, we're gonna paint the center brown and the two outside edges black. So we're gonna find a nice brown here. Maybe that one there. And paint that center bit brown. And the outside bits I'm going to do black. So again, paint bucket and paint it black. Now the next steps really depend on what design you're going to do. So if we go back to the document here, I'm probably going to focus on this middle design, I think. I quite like that one, but you can do either one and you can design your own if you want to. Just make sure you're incorporating Indigenous colors and Indigenous symbols into that artwork. But if we look at the design here, the next step is 3 equal circles in the central sections are painted with black dots to form a symmetrical design. So black circles, and then you'll see the next step is to do an inner red circle and the outer red circles. So if I go back into here, I'm going to use my paintbrush tool, and I'm going to fiddle around here. I'm going to make my opacity a bit less because this is looking very not painted. So I'm going to change a few of these settings, see what we can do there. So if we look here, we got even circles, so I'm going to zoom right in. I'm going to get rid of my stencil because I don't need that anymore. I've got an extra layer. And we're going to do, again, a new layer. And this time we're going to do it with our circles. So I'll make this a bit smaller. If I look there, there's a circle that's kind of in the center here. And one thing we can do to make this a little bit easier for us is we can click down here on the shapes. You might have the rectangle there, so you want to right click that. Go to the ellipse tool. And if we just draw a bit of an outline here of our circle, it's going to make it a bit easier to do the center bits. So if I reposition this, and I'm just going to change the fill as well. So down here in properties, I can change it to white. And after that, C, Control V to copy it. Place one over here. Control C, Control V to copy it. Place one over here. You can kind of line those up as best you can as well. So that one lines up pretty well with the one. You can see those lines that appear, those pink lines. That shows it as nice and lined up. And then from there, I'm going to go back into my layers, create another layer, and we'll use my paintbrush tool. And the design we're going for is those black dots. So I've changed some of these settings up here. As I said, 15% opacity, 72% flow. Might change the brush type as well, make it a bit softer. And I'm going to take my black color here for the brush, and we're just going to do black dots a few times here. Times there. I'm going to go around those circles. So the other way you can do it to make it a bit more even is if we get rid of these eclipse circles here. Remember, they're each a different layer. So now we have our layer here. I covered that a bit before. So we have our layer here where I've got my dot circles that I have created around the original eclipse, so going around the whole way. If I then select that layer and hit Control J, remember it'll create a new layer that is identical. Then I can move that layer down this way and place it wherever I might want it to be. I might be able to resize it if it's a bit too big. That's just a much easier way. And same sort of thing again, I can go Control J again, create another layer there. Another layer up here, it's got that layer copy. I can click on that, I can move it around to this side, make sure it is nice and lined up. And then I've got my 3 layers. And then these eclipse tools that I've just used, I can just get rid of all of them. So if I hold Shift and select them all, and go over here and delete. There we go. So we have our circles here, all nice and lined up in our boomerang. We take a look at our Word document for the next step. We need the red circles. So red circles in the center of the black, and then the red dots on the outside as well. So if I come back here, use my brush tool, and I'm just going to copy the design. You guys can experiment though, like definitely try and change it up. I'm going to go nice red color here, might be a bit of a darker red. If I zoom in, so it's nice and even. I'm going to try and create those red circles in the center. So once again, a little technique you can do is taking this and drawing another circle in the center, just so it is nice and even. White, and then we've got a circle here as a bit of a guideline for us to work with. But again, remember you want to create a new layer and do the paintbrush over that layer. So if I go back to my paintbrush, I've got my red, I'm going to make these dots a little bit smaller still. A few times, all the way around that circle. So similar idea here, I've got the eclipse, which I can then remove. And then I've got my layer here, which is my red circles, which is looking pretty good. I can use Control J to copy that layer, just a little bit. And I can move it over here and place it there. Again, I can hit Control J again, copy the layer again, and move this one over that way. So now we're seeing that those red circles are really nicely designed in the center there. Again, once we go back, we can delete that original eclipse. And we'll have our 3 layers of circles that we can remove. So the next step was to use that brush tool. And if we go back to the original image, we're going to try and paint it in a similar way to this. If I just zoom in here, we really want them in kind of like following the circle around here on the outside. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. These are all design choices. You can make them bigger, smaller, whatever you want. And I'm going to use the brush tool to paint those circles. Just one thing, did I just make a mistake there? I think I might have. Undo that. Just redo that block circle, layer visibility. And I'm going to create a new layer. So remember, you want everything on a new layer because I don't want to damage this layer here. I want this next bit to be on a new layer. So again, using those dots, I'm going to go around this way, create dot art that mirrors the black dots there. So we have our red dots outlining it. You will do the red dots for all 3 of them. Design here. All 3 of them have the red dots around them. And then the next step is the yellow ones. I'm just doing this for simplicity's sake. Let's change that to a bit of a yellow color. So yellow. How many yellow do I want though? Orange yellow. Just along those lines. And then from there, I'm going to create my dots in the middle here. So center dots. Just clicking a few times to get that brush. Fill it out here. 4 dots in the middle, a little bit more than that. So undo those, I think. You can make it a bit better. So there. And we'll follow that circular pattern a bit more. And again, you can copy and paste that layer using Control J into the centers of your other circles. But for my one, we're just going to do a nice quick version. Again, put a bit of a V shape up here. Back, we've got a few little dots just down in the center here. So we're just trying to mimic that design as best we can. The white circles over on this side. So I'm going to do a bit of a cheat trick here. I'm going to take. Let's have a look here. I'm going to take a couple of these circles I think here. So I'm going to find the ones that I want. So that black one, we could. And I might just do a bit of a cleanup here. I might just rename these. So if I go through, I know that that is the boomerang. It's going to make it easier to choose the layers. That I'm going to call central black circle. It's the right black circle. That one's the left black circle. And that is center red. Red. That is left red. Didn't see that for a second. So here's bright red. And this one I'm just going to call fishing backwards. So a little bits and pieces. You can make those separate layers as well if you want to make it a bit easier so you don't have to go the whole thing. So I've got them all renamed and reorganized. So that next step is those white circles on the right and left hand side. So again, if I zoom in over to the right hand side, use the brush tool, make sure it's white. And what are we looking at here? So there's 1, 2, 3 circles. So we're going to create 3 circles. I'm probably going to get a small brush there. So 3 circles around this area here. So it's kind of centered on that side. So let's get started with it. So there we have my right white. I'm going to go Control J, call this one left white, and I can just and drag it over that way. So let's just keep dragging it over that way. Let's go a little bit. Line it up as best I can there with that one. So there we have our white, and there's little lines and little bits and pieces we can put in as extra here. So there's little lines in the end, and you can incorporate all these kind of design components. So these are for the next one, but you can fill around and see what else you can add in. I'd probably make those white parts a little bit bigger in hindsight. And if I go back to my base boomerang here. And fill in these kind of areas here better, like the black color, and then make sure they're a bit more defined there. So I can create outlines. But yeah, it's the basic boomerang design. So you can experiment with those. Remember, the idea is experimentation with the brush tools. Change the settings, change the flows, move stuff around. But we can follow those basic steps. And that's the lesson for today. So good luck with that one. Those are due next week. So probably Wednesday next week, I'll get you to send me through the work that you have. Everyone should have sent through the previous stuff though. So the logo, the fusion, and the handprint. So those 3 things should be sent through to me by the end of today. But this boomerang we'll have until next Wednesday. Good luck and have a good weekend.